All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our daily roundup, Rebel News, from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern, where we dissect the news items of the day through a rotating cast of hosts. And usually it's hosted by our chief correspondent and editor in chief, Sheila Gunn Reid. But today I'm subbing in for her, and my name is Tamara Ugolini, and I'm joined by my colleague and friend, Alexa Lavoie in Quebec. Alexa, how are you doing over there?
I'm pretty good, but it's Mayday, so there is a
Yes.
lot going on today.
Yeah, that's right. So happy May 1st to everyone. I always, my sister sends me this funny Justin Timberlake thing where on the calendar, where he's like, it's gonna be May. Anyway, for anyone who thinks that's hilarious every single year, it gets me. I'm just so cheesy like that. It gets me every time. So whenever it's May 1st or April 30th, and I have that voice stuck in my head, Justin Timberlake when he had like the Mr. Noodle hair when they looked like dried Mr. Noodles. Gets me every time. But anyway, getting into the things that are happening. So, Rebel News has just announced that we are going to be hosting 2 emergency town halls on Alberta separation in 2 weeks. So, very short time frame out from here. The events will be hosted by both Ezra Levant and Sheila Gunn Reid. And of course, there will be some surprise guests included. You can get all of the details at our new website and special campaign. It's called donegetingscrewed.com. So that obviously refers to Alberta. And they will be on Monday, May the 12th in Edmonton, and then Wednesday, May 14th in Calgary. So you can find all of the details and get your tickets there at donegetingscrewed.com. For anybody who has just tuned in, we're streaming on a couple different platforms. So, of course, we have been recently remonetized on YouTube and we're streaming there on Rumble and also on X. So, if you'd like to join the conversation, you can send us a paid chat and we will read it and or answer it on air. And so this goes obviously towards supporting our journalism and our continued broadcasting efforts. On YouTube, it's a on YouTube, it's a super chat. And on Rumble, it's a Rumble rant. So depending on which platform you are watching us on, I know a lot of our viewers are still on YouTube, and YouTube makes it a little bit easier to send those financial contributions. So whichever platform you're on, send us some words of encouragement or some words of support. And we look forward to hearing from our viewers, because without you, we wouldn't be able to do this work. So I think first on the day, before we get into this Mayday craziness, which Alexa, I know you have a lot of experience and familiarity with, we will first get into some of Ontario Premier Doug Ford's reactions. I know that they reacted a little bit yesterday on the stream to some of his comments, both pre and post election election results. But here we have him saying that, or admitting finally, rather, that this system is broken. So, of course, referring to the criminal justice system that I would say doesn't really do any sort of justice these days. So we'll have a listen what he says, and then we'll come back for some comments.
There's so many great judges, first of all, and there's great JPs. I'm a strong believer in our judicial system, but it's out of control now. Like you see these criminals getting out on bail, not once or twice, 4 or 5 times, and going out and committing heinous crimes. There's a story that someone was out on bail 5 times and went in and killed a young lady. This is absolutely ridiculous how these judges keep letting people out over and over and over again. I'm just done with it. We're going to hire tough on crime judges, tough on crime JPs to make sure that they follow the law and keep these people in jail, because they're just being released. You could go in and kick in a door, put a gun to someone's head with kids in the house, terrorize that house, and guess what? By the time they get arrested and get out, it's the next day. And then they start mocking our police in the back of the police car. Don't worry, I'll be out by the time you start your shift. And what happens? They're out before they get, before they come back on duty. The system is broken, and there's a lot of terrible, terrible bleeding heart judges out there. You know something? If it happened to them, they might take a different look at it. And that's not a knock against all the judges, because there's good qualified judges. We have great chief justices. Matter of fact, probably the best in the country. But the system's broken. And once these judges get into their position, they have this sense of entitlement. That's what drives me crazy. We were democratically elected as a government. And I always say the legislature is supreme, meaning the people are supreme. When you get a mandate to do something, you can't have judges constantly overruling the government. Or I have an idea. And then again, I'm going to emphasize, not all the judges. I've said it 3 times. But why don't we have the next election, the PC party, the Liberal Party, the NDP party, the Green Party, and the Judges Party? Because they overturn everything, right down to the bike lanes. So, we get democratically elected.
He goes on and on a little bit here, but you get the gist of what Doug Ford is saying. And it's really surprising because this is not the stance that Doug Ford has previously taken, right? Like this crime and chaos and disorder falling onto the streets in Ontario and arguably all across the country is not a new phenomenon. This has been happening for years, and we have been reporting on it at fixourcities.com, at our website there, where we highlight. I mean, it's primarily related to also the drug crisis, but the two really go hand in hand: the violence and the fallout on the streets and the public safety issues, and the idea that we can give addicts safer, right? Well, that R is really important, apparently. Safer drugs that are highly addictive, highly deadly, and are now being found on the streets cheaper and cheaper, going right into the hands of our literally children and youth. So this is a really interesting take. The polls must be in for Doug Ford, and he can see now that the party that he's pretty much part of, which I would argue is just kind of the little man in the Liberal Party of Canada, that he's now all of a sudden taking this stance against the crime and chaos the Liberal policies have been directly responsible for.
And I do agree with him in a sense that, yes, it's true, there is judges that have ideologies. And of course, they probably follow those ideologies when they take their decision. And I think it's great if we elect some judges, because we can make them accountable of some decision that they did. But the thing is, the Liberals have put in place some bills that permit the judge to take those decisions. So it's also a big part of the Liberals government that was there before and still there today with a new face.
Mhm.
But still, they needs to repeal some of the bills that they actually voted in.
Yeah, we need another bail reform, right? We need to reform the bail reform that the Liberals brought in. And I hear it all the time, even in the small town of Cobourg, where crime, chaos, disorder, open air drug use, all of these things are proliferating on this one sleepy small town where people didn't even lock their vehicle doors. They didn't lock their front doors. This is a high trust society and a high trust community that is being rocked by these horrible policies and implementations. And I hear it all the time that the same repeat offenders are arrested, and then it's mountains of paperwork for the police officers to go through, only to find out that they are back on the streets by the time they're done their shift, or by the time that they are signing on to their next shift. So they're seeing these repeat offenders over and over out in the community. They are literally repeat offending in those same communities. And so it really is demoralizing for both the community and the police officers who are trying to do their job to keep the streets safe and arrest these criminals. But our judicial system is just, I mean, finally, Ford's calling it what it is. It's broken. And where was he, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I mean, better late than never, I suppose. But geez, Doug Ford took you a while on this one.
Is that in Toronto that they were saying that put your key next to your door?
Yes. Yeah. The Toronto police, they were saying, don't lock your vehicle door and leave the keys at the front door so that you don't get hurt when the thieves try to come into your home to steal your vehicle. That's how crazy it is in the city of Toronto. And where was Doug Ford then? like this is great that he's saying these things and taking this hard stance. And a lot of people are saying, hey, this is the Doug Ford that I once voted for. But it's just, my faith in people like Doug Ford is just not very high. You can't already tell. David Menzies and others have nicknamed him Flip Flop Ford, and you can see that on full display almost every single time he talks. You just wait for the polling to come in or the winds to blow the other direction, and all of a sudden Ford is gone with the wind. So here we have another clip actually of him basically saying the same. He's slamming the Liberal government, which I would argue he just kind of in a roundabout way, actually not even in a roundabout way, directly campaigned for or supported rather during the federal election. He is now slamming them for allowing violent offenders back onto Canadian streets and wants to all of a sudden uphold the criminal code.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister since that letter? Have you gotten his attention? If you have, is that something that was addressed when you guys spoke?
Yeah, and I spoke to him yesterday, but it's all the premiers. This is a second letter now to the federal government. I got to give a shout out to Wab Canoe. He's sending another letter as well. The Premier of Manitoba, the guy's an absolute champion, and all the premiers have signed off on it. When I did it the first time, usually it takes, a week, 2 weeks to get a consensus. I made 12 other phone calls to all the premiers. Every single one of them said, we're in, we're in, we're in. It didn't matter what political stripe. And we have all three political colors as premiers. But they all agree on one thing: let's stop the crime. And this falls this falls on the lap of the federal government. They do the criminal code. I have an idea. The federal government, let us do the criminal code. And I'll guarantee you, tomorrow, once we have a criminal code, then bang, this will stop immediately. And we'll be building more jails. We're already building jails, but we'll be building more jails because these guys are going to be in jail. And they're going to think twice about going and robbing someone when they know the sentence is going to be 5 to 10 years in maximum security prison. Watch how quickly it stops.
So it sounds like you're kind of lost confidence in the federal government. How confident are you that this new government will do something about bail reform?
Well, I'm confident that hopefully the new prime minister, unlike the previous prime minister, didn't want to do anything. The new prime minister, I have confidence that he believes in keeping communities safe, which I know he believes in that. And I'm sure he believes in keeping criminals in jail. So let's see what happens. But again, I'll be on them like an 800-pound gorilla, like I've never been on them before, because people are fed up. They're done with us.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. What? You think that just because they changed the face of the leader, that would change something when you have the exact same cabinet behind you?
Right.
I don't think so. And you know what it looks like? And I'm pretty sure, make my words, but it seems like Doug Ford is now training himself to be the first opposition of the Liberals and trying to crack down on the Liberals and do the job of the Conservative leader. I don't know if he's training himself to maybe look for the position as the next leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, but it looks like.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that he's kind of posturing himself to take on that role. So that will be really interesting because I don't remember the last time that Doug Ford was on the Liberal Party of Canada, Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney et al., like an 800-pound gorilla. I mean, if that, he's always like, oh, we have each other's backs and we're all in this together and we love working together and having, as I like the way that Jamil Javi put it, the MP, I think it's for North Oshawa, anyway, somewhere in Durham, that he's out just having lattes and cappuccinos with Justin Trudeau. And I mean, that is so, like the amount of truth that he spoke in those comments. And I think we've played that on the live stream earlier this week. But for anyone who's not familiar with that clip, it's pretty easy to find Jamil giving those remarks on election night after his win and heavily criticizing Doug Ford and how he conducted himself throughout the the writ period for those 37 days. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's, again, better late than never. Oh, there, there he is. Sorry, he's having lattes and cappuccinos with Carney.
Mm.
These people are so just out of touch, and like there's no adversity in their lives.
And
So I guess it's better, like I said, it's better late than never that Doug Ford is all of a sudden coming out of, coming out of the gate with a bit of a backbone. But we'll see if it's just empty words once again from Doug Ford, and if the wind changes direction, which way he'll flop next.
And he say, well, let's build more jail. Okay, look at the jail here in Quebec. There is recently someone who went on, I think it was the main person in charge of this union of the officer working in the jails system, and they were saying like there is drone doing delivery of packages to the people in prison. They have like a lot of different stuff like happening. Like, how come you are in a jail system and you can actually order Amazon stuff and being delivered straight to you without passing by the main person to look into the packages? They are just bringing like at their window, and they can just remove the window and like take the package and put back the window. Like, it's how the jail system is working right now. Some of them have like phone. Some of them were able to bring so many different devices into the jail system. Now they can also threaten the people that are outside from the prison to show like, oh, they are badass and they are going to go after you if you are doing something. So the jail system, in itself, as a building, it's broken.
Yeah, that reminds me too. There was a piece out a couple weeks ago. Yeah, there's the Quebec man arrested for the drone drop. But just a few weeks ago, actually, maybe it was only last week or the week prior. But inmates are now going to be able to access the internet. They're going to be given phones, tablets, and internet access, which it has not happened previously. So not only is it difficult to retain these criminals and actually get them behind bars, but once they are behind bars, the rope that they are supposed to be bound by is just being loosened and loosened and loosened, is becoming more comfy and cozy. I mean, jail is not supposed to be a pleasant place to live. And
And
here
jail
they
is
are
supposed
just,
to be a huge punishment for those criminals to think twice when they go out
yes.
of the jail if they will repeat again criminal offenses. And this is not something that would deter them. They would just do it again and again, because when they go into jail, they have everything that they need, as access to everything. So where is the determinant for them to not doing again and again and again a criminal offense?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. There's no deterrence. And the criminals are laughing, as Doug Ford says, in the back of the police cruiser, going, I'm, haha, look at you. Now you have to do mountains of paperwork, use up and tie up your time and your resources to finish all this paperwork. And they'll probably be out back on the street before they're even done submitting all that paperwork. And the criminals, the repeat offenders, they know that. They know how to scam the system. They're becoming more familiar with the lax rules, and there's no accountability and there's no deterrent for them to, live a straight and clean and sober life. So that's really, that's going to bring back street justice eventually, right? If there's no actual justice, then people will start taking things into their own hands, and that's the territory that you don't want to be in when you live in a high trust society that's supposed to have checks and balances in place to uphold public and community safety. And when those things aren't happening, well, then people become increasingly frustrated and emboldened to take matters into their own hands. So
Mhm.
something better change here, because I think that's probably the trajectory, sad as it is, that a lot of communities are in currently, with the current state of affairs that we have. But also adding insult to injury is the downturn, as Global News puts it, of the Canadian economy. And a lot of us throughout the COVID handling saw kind of the writing on the wall. Like, this wasn't difficult to see 4 or 5 years ago, after the massive global lockdowns and shutdown of the global economy, that this would result in the inevitable fallout of supply chains and those economic stability and security. And so now we have Deloitte predicting a downturn for the Canadian economy, calling it walking on a tightrope. And they say that Canada is likely to experience an economic downturn later this year. Business confidence is cooling, investments are stalling. I mean, obviously, Canada's economy is walking on a tightrope, but this may be our moment to build a more resilient, productive, and diversified future, they said in the spring edition of their economic outlook. Of course, there it is, right? Like, kind of capitalizing on Carney's campaign verbiage that we're going to build a greener economy, and we have this opportunity, right? They make every crisis into an opportunity to move forward their own net zero agenda and policy implementations. And so I think this will probably serve as a bit of a sounding board for someone like Carney, who's going, wait, no, we need billions more of taxpayer dollars to invest into a green economy. And I think that's probably where this is kind of going, because otherwise things are stagnating and it's going to be difficult times ahead, especially as the tariffs unfold and we face hundreds of thousands of layoffs across Ontario alone, not to mention what it's going to look like in the rest of Canada.
We'll see what will happen with that, but I will say that the future of Canada, at least like the soon future, look a little bit dark.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that net zero policies or trying to build this electrical grid is going to be the saving grace for all of that. Let's open up what we have that's reliable, get our oil and gas sector ramping up speed, and start utilizing the vast amount of natural resources that we have basically literally at our feet, because continuing to squash that and not utilize it is obviously going to continue this economic downturn, as they call it. I would say we're already in a recession. It's just been inflated literally by money printing, and so Canadian, like, you don't feel it as much as maybe you should. But if the lineups at food banks are any indication, we are already in a recession, and depending on what happens with our global trade and the U.S. tariffs, things are only going to get worse from here.
And the fact that you bring up the power grid, look at what just happened to France, Spain, and Portugal. They had a major blackout. And some of them said something went wrong with the power grid, but some people are blaming the net zero, the fact that they are trying to push all those green energy projects that cause a major chaos in those countries.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just the capacity is not there. It can't support it. And so that's going to be a more commonplace occurrence if we try to just move to such an unstable, unreliable energy source. Those things will happen more often. And what do you do in a country like Canada, where we have, minus 20, minus 30 weather, and all of a sudden your entire energy source fails for how many days, for how many hours? Canada needs reliable, consistent energy, and the electrical grid is obviously not equipped to provide that. Now, Alexa, you had a fun tweet, just switching to more of the election fallout, where you highlighted how much Pierre Poilievre's riding was redistributed. So it was amalgamated with a really heavily liberal riding. And so, do you want to walk us through your tweet there and what you found on the map?
Yeah, so previously, in 2012, the riding of Canada, Canada Carleton, and the riding of Carleton was created. And in 2015, the Canada Carleton riding have been liberals since now, and the Carleton riding was conservative by Pierre Poilievre. But in 2022, and that is the same year that Pierre Poilievre won the leadership race and started to be the leader of the Conservative Party. His riding changed because Election Canada did a redistribution, and now you can see that the Canada riding went by itself, and the rest of the Canada Carleton riding that used to be Liberals have been annexed to the Carleton riding. So we can see now a part of the riding being added to Pierre Poilievre riding, and so this riding was used to be Liberals. So this is one of the facts that can have contributed. Also, the 91 candidate on the riots, and also another point. So I would look at into the numbers, and in 2021, where NDP was pretty heavy, was 8,000 and something votes, down to 1,000 and something votes for 2025. Those votes went to the Liberals. Also, before in 2021, the PPC wasn't there this time. I didn't see it on 2025. So that was 1,000 and something vote that went probably to the Conservative. The Green Party went down to 1,000 and something to 565. And also, you need to count the 1,000 other vote that went to random candidate. You know, but on that, when you look at just the numbers, you can see that what was added was about like in between 10 to 15,000 more votes, but that come from the extent riding that was annexed to Pierre Poilievre riding. And that riding was mainly Liberals. So there were a huge chance already with all those factors that Pierre Poilievre might end up losing his riding.
Yeah, and I found it really odd too. I mean, the 91 candidates thing, and I'm glad that you explained it. I mean, that in and of itself is really odd. I think Carney's riding of Nepean had 5 or 6 candidates. Jagmeet Singh had, similar 4 or 5 candidates running. But I also found it really interesting, and I can't seem to find the exact percentage, but Poilievre's riding had the highest number of early voting turnout.
Yeah.
Almost half of eligible voters came to the early vote or the early polls. But then they also had substantially higher numbers than the national average of voter turnout. So we had a high voter turnout. I think it was 68% this year total. But in Poilievre's riding specifically, if I remember correctly, and again, I can't find the exact percentage, but I believe it was something like 78% of eligible voters. So 10% higher than our national average. And that is pretty substantial.
But again, you need to count the fact that there is more voters for the 2025. It's not just we can't compare a riding that was not the same demography than before and compare the number. It's not working like that. And now you have a percentage of the population that might have voted, and now we have more people who can vote than the year before, and I think that explains everything.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. I mean, someone who's held that seat for 20 plus years, all of a sudden they are the Conservative leader now. And so they need to retain their seat. And suddenly, thanks to amalgamation, voter turnout, they all of a sudden do not, and lose by a substantial amount. I mean, 2,000 or just under 1,500 votes. I mean, that's a pretty substantial loss for Poilievre, but it makes sense when you amalgamate such a strong Liberal held riding into one. And we had that here also. My riding used to be Northumberland, Peterborough South, or I think that's provincial Northumberland, Peterborough South. It was something else federally, Northumberland, and there was a couple names thereafter. And it's just been amalgamated now to be called Northumberland Clark. So, and kind of the school boards are doing all of that, the municipalities, there's a lot of weird border shifting amalgamation things happening kind of at all levels of government, as it seems right now, provincially, municipally, locally, and then of course federally. So we saw that happen in the federal election. I think that's only going to continue to happen on all those other levels of government as well. So that's an interesting thing to point out and kind of keep an eye on. We have a couple super chats here that I'll get to, and then maybe we'll go to an ad break to break things up a little bit before we get into some more stuff. Alex Greer gives $2.79. Thanks, Alex. Très bon, Alexa. I hope my French is absolutely terrible. Très bon, Alexa, and great work, Tamara. So thanks so much, Alex. And then
That's
Alex
cute.
Greer gives another, where did it go? $13.99. That's great. Thanks so much, Alex. And then what does this one say? Politicians never lie gives $3.33. Hottie plus hottie. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. And so let's run, or actually, while we have everyone here, maybe we'll do a quick Rumble ad script before we head into a Rebel News ad break, because again, this helps keep our operations afloat. So this one comes from Rumble. So this sponsorship is from Rumble, one that is incredibly important to the survival of the company. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. Rumble did not. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They are attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France, and they're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get much of it. So watching our show on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment, so in the States, and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and you believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. And if you don't have the means, we're just happy if you watch us on Rumble. And of course, share the link out with your friends. All right, we'll go to a quick ad and then back for more in a few minutes.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA hats to introduce, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again. Let's face it, Canada's economy isn't heading in the right direction. Inflation's eating away your savings, and government debt is out of control. No politician is going to fix that overnight. With Guildhall Wealth, you can hold real physical gold and silver inside your RRSP. It's a time-tested way to protect your retirement and take back control of your wealth. Call 1-877-8-SILVER or visit guildhallwealth.com/rebel to request your free investor kit. And hey, make sure to mention Rebel News.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before. and we'll do it again if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
All right. So today we have one of the first payouts that Google has given to Canadian news outlets. And of course, these are the official legacy news, registered, government approved media. And I'm going to have a full video out on this, so I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of it. But the headline says, we'll just read that, more than 100 media outlets have received $22.2 million in Google payments to it's a journalism group, so I think it's a non-for-profit, but it oversees the distribution of money, and this is in response, of course, to Bill C-63, the Online News Act. And so these organizations have been given more than $1 million each. And maybe let me just see if I can pull up the direct link from the Canadian Journalism Collective, because I want to show you just really quickly the magnitude of funds that they get. And so this is about halfway down the page. And so, yeah, this is being divvied out by the Canadian Journalism Collective, and they break down here all the recipients of this journalism funding. So you can see the very top here: Canadian Press, 1.3 million; Globe and Mail, 2 million; Metroland Media Group, 1.9 million; Post Media, 4.2 million; Black Press, 1.3, and it literally goes on and on. A lot of the smaller outlets also receive at least six figures. You can see Glacier Digital Media Limited, got $397,000. And this is only 60% of their estimated total. So this money, it's only going to become higher and higher amounts. And then an interesting part of what the CTV News article states is that the totals will rise beyond current estimates when the collective works out whether any applicant outlets are ineligible. So that would allow previously earmarked money to flow to the media businesses that meet the requirements, right? And we know that Rebel News doesn't meet those requirements because, well, we speak truth to power and criticize the government. So why would a government-funded news corporation want someone like Rebel News to be able to get the benefits of what these media organizations get? And again, I'm going to have a full video out on this where I break some of it down, but essentially, they're saying that this is like compensation for the journalism that the mainstream media does. And I would say that it's more of a corporate power grab dressed up as charity, and also a direct threat to independent small creators like us here at Rebel News.
Yeah, there is a lot, but guess who is getting the biggest part of it? CBC.
Yeah.
6.6 how many? 6.7?
6.8. Yeah. 6.8 million.
6.8 million. Can you believe it?
They get it's not on that list, so you have to kind of go through and tally it up. This CTV was the one that wrote that specifically about CBC, that they will get 7% of the total payout. So yes, this equates to roughly 6.8 million. And again, this is only the first one, so there's going to be more. And then depending on the eligibility of these other smaller outlets, if they're found to be ineligible, then the money that was going to be divvied up to them would be then redirected into some of these bigger outlets. So this is just 60% of the total payout. We'll see what the other 40 looks like in the weeks and months to come. But this was basically a way for Google to be exempt from the Online News Act. They agreed to pay out news organizations. And, it further contributes to the censorship that we've seen over the last few years, because just like the way the legacy media parrots and promotes the Liberal Party of Canada, who bails them out to the tune of millions of dollars every year, why would you bite the hand that feeds, right? So now we have big tech, big gov, and a lot of the big tech is funded also by big pharma. So you have these three massive entities just in bed together here. So this is just a cesspool of compensating one another to pat each other on the back and promote your policies, theories, products, etc.
I don't know most of them. I never heard of them. Like I'm looking and I'm just like, okay, I'm trying to find some that I know, and I'm just like, come on, okay, I know McLean, but like the rest is really not some media I never heard of.
Yeah, there's a
It's
lot of, again, just smaller creators. But there's a lot that even I haven't heard from. It's interesting once you go to the Canadian Journalism Collective directly, right? Because I like to source my stuff direct. I don't like to trust the mainstream media. I don't trust anybody. I want to say, you know what, well, where did you get that information from? I like to go back to the direct source. So when you go back to the Canadian Journalism Collective, it's interesting to kind of sift through what they've been publishing, what organizations are compensated in here. And then again, I'm going to have a full report, so I don't want to get too far into it. But the Canadian Journalism Collective, they actually get an administrative fee for doing this crucial work to divvy out the funds, and it's a lot of money. It is
$2 million.
Oh, Alexa, you gave it away.
Oh.
Yeah, so like all around, this is such a cash grab. It is crazy. But I will have a full report out on it, breaking some of it down. And I hope that you will still stay tuned for it, even though we chatted about a lot of it here. But always direct source. Go back, read for yourself. Like they're trying to hire independent directors, a board of directors. They're, it's like you guys are taking $2 million from this already. You haven't even hired an ombudsperson. They're not called
I can do
ombudsmen
it.
anymore.
I can do
Yeah.
it for $2 million.
Right? How much are these people making when they just skim off? Oh, we'll just take a skim. We'll just skim $2 million off the top there before we divvy it all out. But anyway, that's the state of the legacy media here in Canada. And of course, I've lost my place here on where we are in our segments. We have a good clip here from independent journalists, speaking of which, the ones that aren't government funded. And this is the kind of work that you can do when you're an independent who's not government funded, who doesn't have to worry about biting the hand that feeds from Google and arguably their parent company, Alphabet Inc. This comes from Chris Dacey in Ottawa, asking some accountability questions of the newly elected Prime Minister, Mark Carney.
Mr. Carney, you ran a fear-based campaign focused on Trump, elbows up. I did, actually.
Why does Trump prefer you over Pierre Poilievre? Why does Trump say he makes you less? Are you
Do you plan? Do you plan to do? Do you plan to do anything about the weekly hate marches here in Ottawa? We have weekly hate marches here in Ottawa. Assaults on independent journalists. Should you maybe call back Parliament? Parliament's been prorogued a very long time. Should Parliament come back and skip summer vacation, Mr. Carney? Do you think mocking the independent media, the only people here questioning you, is a good way to start?
The press is to hold our leaders accountable, sir, and we will do that. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. Bye now.
I look forward to our next meeting, Mr. Carney.
Yeah.
At least Carney didn't start yet to wave to people who are inexistent as Trudeau did.
Well, and it's funny because Chris writes right under his post on X that one immediate takeaway is that Carney is sharper than Trudeau, because he immediately was like, oh, did you practice that first? And I mean, that's whatever. It's snarky, unnecessary, kind of a weird comment to come from someone who is supposed to answer questions from the public, right? Like, why do you think that you shouldn't be asked these things? But anyway, it'll be so fun to see what else he's asked and how else he responds, because if his campaign was any indication, he really doesn't do well facing accountability questions from the media, and his decorum and his ability to handle himself with grace and eloquence. Sometimes he showed his true colors. When he told Rosemary Barton to look inside herself, and he had a couple other weird comments to media, her asking about his conflicts of interest and his financial situation and his meetings with Beijing. I mean, the amount of times he's already been caught lying speaks for itself, I think. But it's great when you have someone on the ground like Chris Stacey who can just be out there asking good accountability questions of our, elected leaders. And Chris will be on ELS tonight. He'll be on the Ezra Levant show. It's being guest hosted by Sheila. And so for anybody who wants to hear a little bit more from Chris, he will be the guest host, the guest on the show tonight.
But listen, Mark Carney never faced accountability. He was the governor of the Bank of England, and then the governor of the Bank of Canada, and at Goldman Sachs, and at Brookfield Asset Management. In any of them, he has been elected by the people. Now he has been elected by the people, and now he is facing accountability. And I think he will have some difficulty to deal with that, because his whole life he thought that everything that what he was doing was actually amazing and perfect. And now he will need to face hard question, and probably the harder question that you will hear will be from independent journalists. So we will see how he is dealing with that, and if he can actually answer those questions, or if he will continue to call the police on independent journalists.
Yeah, right. Like when he invited Keean Bexte, he's like, "Oh, I've never seen you at press conferences before." At the debates a couple weeks ago in Montreal, and Keean Bexte from the Counter Signal, I think now is Juno News. But anyway, he got up and asked a question, and Carney's like, "Oh, I have not seen you before. Maybe you can come out to some of my pressers." And then you tried to go to one of his pressers, and he calls the police. So I think that this is perhaps an indication as to how Mark Carney is going to treat the media, the independent media, from this point on. Meanwhile, we have the Bloc Québécois leader, Yves Blanchette, saying that they won't be joining into some, coalition agreement with the Conservatives to, quote unquote, overthrow the government anytime soon. Instead, he wants to see negotiations happen to end the tariff war throughout the remainder of the year. And I guess he's hopeful that it will take months, not years, to resolve. And I don't know. I don't think we have a clip of this one. No, we don't.
Just quickly, something to add that probably nobody is aware, but there is some tension between now the PQ, that is the baby of Bloc Québécois, that's called Parti Québécois here in Quebec. It's at the provincial level. And the PQ was pretty clear at the beginning that Carney was a threat for the Quebec nation, especially for the French language, especially with the immigration policies. And recently he went out to say that, does the Bloc Québécois is still a separatist? Does he still there for fighting for the separation of Quebec? Does he still there to represent the Quebec point? And he actually dared to speak out against the leader of the Bloc Québécois, because a lot of people here in Quebec are questioning themselves, but what is the Bloc Québécois? What it serves to Quebecers? Almost anything. It's not for nothing that we saw a lot of people changing their vote from the Bloc to the Liberal Party, because they are the same. The Bloc Québécois have supported the Liberals' policies since they are there. And so we are seeing like exactly some tension. And it's really funny because in Quebec, we are going to have an election in 2026. And the party that might win is the PQ, the Parti Québécois. While now what we are seeing is people didn't vote for the Bloc Québécois, they vote for the Liberal Party, of what the Liberal Party don't stand for the same policies that the PQ. So it's really, really something weird that is happening right now here in Quebec, I would say. But the appartenance of a political party, it's not really strong here in Quebec. I would say if you are promising us the most, we will vote for you. So it's really something in Quebec. You can actually buy the vote of Quebecer, and I think this is really sad.
Yeah. We have a super chat here that I just don't want to get too far out from, which asks, was that an electric vehicle? Sorry, it comes from Bonnie D. Give
No.
$6.99. Thanks, Bonnie. Was that an electric vehicle Carney was getting into? I'm thinking not. No, it was just one gas guzzling SUV in a larger entourage of security detail and staffers that has to follow the ivory tower dwelling elected leader throughout his happenings everywhere he goes. They don't drive electric vehicles; they're too unreliable. And how could you imagine being on a time crunch to get to, a presser or an event or some sort of media engagement or something, and all of a sudden your electric car battery is on, its last leg, and you need to stop for an hour or however long it takes to stop and charge these things. This is not, it's not convenient, it's unreliable, and somebody, who arguably does have places to go and people to see, how do they find that to be sustainable in terms of their job requirements to drive an electric vehicle? It just, I couldn't imagine having to factor in, a 20-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute charge into a long stretch of a drive. That, like, why would you want to do that to yourself? You can fill up at a gas station in maybe 5 minutes. Why would you sit somewhere for an hour if you have a 4-hour trek ahead of you? It just doesn't make any logical sense. Okay, now the next thing that we have to, just to try to get through the headline stuff, because we are about 8 minutes out here. I think that we did talk a little bit about the federal election, saw the highest voter turnout since 1993, but I'll just touch on this again before we hit one more quick ad break, and then we'll come back to talk about some more of Green Party Elizabeth May's shenanigans, because I actually didn't. Anyway, we'll save that for a moment. But during this election on Monday night, Canadians came out in the highest number in 32 years. So we had more than 68% of eligible voters casting ballots in the 2025 federal election. That was since 1993. And although it failed to surpass the 1958 record-setting turnout. So that's pretty good, because I know that here in Ontario, at least, I think we had 43% of the voters came out in the 2021, and then a similar number in the 2025, the most recent, 2024 provincial election. So, when you have people who are elected by less than half of the population, like Doug Ford, to get up there and say, I'm democratically elected, and it's like, well, yes, but more than half of the people who are eligible to vote just didn't come out to vote. And so can you really and truly say that your elected position represents the more broad population at large? I don't think so. And I think if more people knew that they could vote in a way that, if they don't align with any candidate, there's actually a formal way, I don't remember what it's called, but there is a formal way to spoil or cancel your vote. And if enough people did that, it would actually force, I don't want to say a referendum, because it's not really a referendum, but it would force a new slate of candidates to have to come forward, because the general populace doesn't align with whoever is currently in those positions. And so instead of doing that and exercising a very important way to say, you know what, I don't like any of the choice, they're all bad choices, and I don't agree with any of them, so I want to take this action to spoil my vote officially and drive that potential renegotiation of new elected officials. Instead of doing that, people they don't go out to vote. They're like, oh, it's not worth anything, and I'm not going out to vote. So I think that if more people were more informed of how our elections work, the processes involved in them. You're not learning this in grade 10 civics class, and that's really a sad state of affairs in our publicly funded school system. But why would a government funded institution want you to know your full capacity as a voter? Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED talk on voting and how we should maybe utilize it a little bit more efficiently.
Mhm. But quickly, I want to say something because it's not on the list, but I think it's really something that people need to know. So we heard recently that Jagmeet Singh stepped down. Now the NDP doesn't have any leaders, and one of the potential candidates for the leadership of the NPD, I'm sorry to say to you all guys, but it seems like Valérie Plante might be one of the potential
No.
candidates. So I'm actually saying that I think the first thing that she would want to implement if she is the next leader will be a trans-Canadian bike lane. I think it's that. I think we will have that in upcoming year. So we have so much bike line here that increase the traffic. And Montreal is like, if you look at Montreal right now, you don't want Valérie Plante as a potential candidate.
Right. Okay, we have a quick ad read, and maybe we don't have time for an ad break now, but I'll get to this one on Truth Social. It says, please add in that you're on Truth and plug your account if we have one. So we are on Truth Social. I don't have the URL handy, but if you go to Truth Social, you can find us at Rebel News. If you're looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, then check out Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news stories and commentary from top media figures. If you want to see Trump's legendary Truth Social posts, then go on to Truth Social today. Join a growing community of patriots on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard, join the movement, and join Truth Social. All right, so we'll just get into some things about Elizabeth May because that would be just as, I think, equally, if not more funny, as Valérie Plante taking over NDP leadership. But I didn't see Elizabeth May's. She had a little debut the other night on Monday night where she and her husband got up on stage and sung a little.
Play?
Oh my goodness, it was so bad. And I guess I didn't realize, but Sheila and Lise discussed it yesterday. So it's pretty funny, but I missed that. And then I found this, in the X verse yesterday. And I had so much secondhand embarrassment for Elizabeth May and her husband. I think this is so funny that it's actually worth playing again. It's just so bad. I don't know if we can turn the volume up here on it.
We figured, it's my party, so I can sing if I want to.
No,
Life
no, you
can be
can't.
so sweet on the sunny side of the street. And you hear that pitter pat, and that happy tune is your step.
Life will be so sweet on the sunny side of the street.
I used to walk in the shade. Grab your coat and get your hat.
Leave your worries on the doorstep.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. I can't do it anymore.
That is sonor pollution. I'm sorry, but imagine people around the world seeing Elizabeth May singing. Like, people will just see what is going on in Canadian politics.
Right. And she was like, she didn't even know the words. And you would think that, your husband and you are getting up to do a little duo. And you think that you would have lots of time to practice, right? You live with this person. Arguably, maybe that's like their thing that they do together is they, practice song and dance. But for it to be so bad, did you not practice beforehand? Did you not try to get in sync with one another? I mean, like I said, I think she forgot the words. Or maybe Elizabeth May, her track record shows maybe she had just a few too many bubblies at the party, the watch party that she was at. But now this is the woman who, and hopefully I can correctly identify her as such, but she now is open to running for House Speaker and joining Carney's cabinet. I mean, she is the lone member, as they say in the CTV article, she is the lone member of her party to be reelected. And she's willing to throw her hat in the ring to be Speaker of the House when next Parliament begins. I'm open to a lot of things, Elizabeth May said in an interview. Yeah, I bet you are. It doesn't mean they're at all likely, and they're pretty hypothetical. I mean, like, way to say nothing while trying to say something, I guess. Um, she left her name in the lineup in the speaker's elections quite a few times without campaigning to be speaker. But I have very, very concerns. She has very, very concerns about how far the Canadian Parliament and the role of the Canadian speaker have departed from our rules and our traditions. Yeah. Okay, Elizabeth May. I
But
don't think
does
anyone
does
takes her
this
seriously. Like,
the
how do you
speaker
take that person seriously?
but the Speaker of the House is not supposed to be as neutral as possible. How can she actually occupy a place as the Speaker of the House when she openly say that she would do everything to block and to counter the Conservative Party during the election? So I'm just saying, like, how is she possibly a potential person to occupy the Speaker of the House? I just don't understand that.
She's not a serious person. I mean, look at her. Like, I, I just have so much embarrassment about this clip. But it's like you can't shield your eyes. You have to keep coming back for more because every time you watch it, there's like, look at her, she's dancing. It's oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. This is not how a serious person conducts themselves, and I think that Parliament and Mark Carney can probably see that. I would hope that anyone in their right mind would see that Elizabeth May is not serious, and why the mainstream media gives her this kind of coverage. I mean, she's very, very concerning about stuff that's happening in Parliament. I mean, she can't even formulate tangible sentences. She obviously like can't really sing. I don't even know if I would say she can dance based on what I've seen here with her and her husband. It's just so embarrassing, and I contrast that with being at Poilievre's watch party in Ottawa on Monday night, and to get up there and give like a dignified, yes, heavily scripted concluding speech with your wife who's conducting herself with class, with grace. You're dressed professionally, you're speaking eloquently, and then you have Elizabeth May with her husband and a guitar and forgetting the words. It's embarrassing. And on the global, like on a world stage, people are sad for I am sad for Canada if Elizabeth May is given any more than she currently has. Anyway, enough about Elizabeth May. Alexa, we're out of time, but do you want to just do like a couple? We'd have a super chat, and then maybe we'll just quickly throw to a few clips of the Mayday because I know you've covered it before, and that's on your radar as well. So we'll just do a few minutes of that because we do have some great clips coming out of Paris. But Nana,
did we address just quickly how Canadian you might end up being screwed up by the NDP, who might join the Liberal Party to give a super majority to Mark Carney? So people, you all went to vote and you gave a minority to a government. You are putting them into trial. And right now, they are going to sneak around and try everything to get a super majority to bring other member of other party into their own party, and that means that they will be into power until 2029.
Right. Yeah. This comes from Brett Wilson, and he says it's a very reliable rumor. So, right off the bat, take it for what you may. But he says that the Liberal Party is attempting to buy NDP MPs who were elected, which is very few of them at this point, but nonetheless, so that they will cross the floor and again try to form a majority party or at least have more leverage as a minority government. so much, he says, so much for election integrity and honesty. So he makes it very Canadian. Canada is in a brutal space. Yeah, but unsurprising. I mean, the Liberal NDP coalition was quite literally in place for 2.5 years. So this is very unsurprising that they would take such extreme measures to continue their skirting of democracy by having these backdoor deals and these, unofficial coalitions, or it was called, I always forget the technical word that they used for the coalition, but yeah, they did that to Canadians for 2 years roughly. And so they do this even more shady, sneaky business. This is so unsurprising. And remember the Liberals, they brought those buttons into the strong conservative, strong and free event. I mean, these are shady things. The Liberals are not they don't conduct themselves with integrity. There's no sort of moral compass that's driving how they conduct themselves. So very reliable rumor, but
they are not
unsurprising.
being punished. Like, they are not being punished. So of course they will act like that. Those people who actually put those buttons, they have been reassigned. They have not been fired. And this is what is happening in that party. Accountability, it's non-existent.
And it has been for a long time. And you have Doug Ford up there parroting about the criminal justice system and bail reform, and it's like, how about we lead with integrity and we stop doing shady deals and conducting ourselves in this way, from our leaders, right? That, like, what kind of example are you setting for the rest of the country to act with integrity, to act with a moral compass, when this is the kind of stuff that you're engaged in, being able to just skirt democracy in a way that's like semi-legitimate but really shady and are otherwise frowned upon. Starts at the top, I would say. Nana Awake gives $5. Thank you very much. I think we need to pass the information about I think we need to pass the information around about utilizing spoiling your vote more. In the case of Ford, they picked the best of the worst as they didn't know they had any other options. Yes, so that's what it's called. You can formally spoil your vote. And so if enough people did that, it would force new candidates to have to come forward, because enough people would say, I don't like any of these options, and I'm thus not going to vote for any of them, right? Because sadly, politics has turned into voting for the least worst option, and that's not very good. So that is something that's available to voters as well, but is just so, a lot of people just don't know that there's a difference between not voting and spoiling your vote, because one is just not partaking in the process and one is exercising your right to say, I don't like any of them and I want a new slate of candidates. So there you have it. And I think, Alexa, do you want to throw to some of these clips out of Paris about Mayday?
Yeah, but in Paris, people need to know that in Paris, it's not like France. The people who live over there are mainly leftist. And I was pretty shocked when I covered the recent election, how many Antifa and far left are in this city. Is actually incredible. And it's not the same beast that the one that we have here. Those people are ready to burn everything down, break everything down during riots. And this is something that is happening pretty often in Paris. It's why some of the shops have some grill that they can put on the facade of their businesses, because when that happens, they are going to throw rocks, put in fire places. I even see a clip from someone in the protest today saying, do not burn that place, there is a woman inside. And I was like, come on, like, how far are you going to just destroy your own city? Who is paying for that afterwards? And today we saw again massive turnout in Paris. A lot of people shouting everybody hates the police. That is the ACAB movement, the all cop or bastard. They are far left activists who are always causing trouble. And after that, playing the victim card as, oh my God, police brutality. You're actually throwing glass bottles to those police officers. Imagine the work that they need to do, those law enforcement, to try to control that big crowd of radical far left. I'm not going to just say far left, they are radical. You see, you can see like Antifa flag along with Palestinian flag and Che Guevara flag. So those people are advocate for communism. They want to defund the police, to destroy the whole place. And I would say this is probably a little bit of what is going on tonight in Montreal. We will have a big protest with the same kind of people marching in the city. Every year we have a lot of damages, a lot of window being broken, a lot of cars being smashed. So we'll see tonight if Montreal City is not turning into the same kind of image you are seeing right now. But this is in the middle of the day. This is not during the night. Imagine what can happen during the night with those people, and they are fully masked. You can't actually identify them. So you see how the police enforcement are actually cracking down bigger and faster than what we are seeing here in Canada.
Yeah. And we can't even send you out because of the violence, right? Like you need security. We can't take on that liability, sending a journalist into that kind of violence and complete decimation that they unleash on the streets. Yeah, that's too bad. And
this is this is terrifying. This is a terror movement. Like, and those movements are growing in the Western world. I don't know if you saw, but I can see it that is growing, and because mainly the big city are leftists, are radical activists for either climate, anti-capitalism, or anti-colonialism, or all those kind of movements that bring people to be violent.
Yeah, and then the taxpayers get to foot the bill afterwards. We have another super chat here from, oh, where did it go? Diva Joka. I'm sorry if my pronunciation is terrible. Give $6.99. How will we communicate once they lock down free speech? We need to get this organized. Yeah, or just fight back. We are initiating some of our own legal fights at Rebel News. And if you want to follow that along, and particularly how we're fighting back against censorship, you can do that at stopthecensorship.ca. There's a couple legal initiatives happening. And I think that depending on how things go under Carney's leadership, we will see, probably more of that and have to ramp that up even further. So great question. Don't have all the answers, but I know that we are doing everything we can to resist the censorship. I do see that Sheila had a question to Premier Smith. I guess that was about an hour ago now because we've been on the stream for just over an hour. So I think we'll just end on the clip of Sheila asking a question to Premier Smith as, Alberta independence becomes a more real thing. Discussions around that ramp up, the petitions started, and the news headlines continue to be generated with Alberta separatism. So we'll end on Sheila's question, but before we wrap up, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us at home. Thanks everyone for all of your super chats and your continued support and letting us know your thoughts and comments by way of a paid super chat. We really appreciate it. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. Thanks, Alexa, for hopping on to join me so that Sheila could take part in Premier Smith's press release today. And stay tuned, same time and place, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern, again tomorrow for another round of Rebel Roundup. thanks to Efron behind the scenes and all of our web team coordinating links and verbiage and getting up the proper thumbnail. I know we had the wrong thumbnail up on YouTube for a portion of the stream, so we apologize for that, but everything should be corrected and up and running now. So thanks again, everyone. We'll end off on Sheila's questions to Premier Smith and see you back here again tomorrow.
Ciao.
Sheila Gunn Reid with Rebel News.
Premier, canola is a $44 billion industry. It supports 206,000 jobs, 40,000 Western farmers. Yet Prime Minister Carney, during his campaign and even now, has said nothing about the 100% retaliatory Chinese tariffs on canola thanks to the Liberals' green protectionist EV policies. So what is your government doing to ensure the canola tariffs are treated with the same urgency by the feds as the auto and steel sector one?
Well, I can tell you that all of the Western premiers who have a large canola industry in their provinces, and that is regardless of political stripe, have raised it directly with the Prime Minister. It seems like it's a bit of a phony war. We've got a 100% tax on EV vehicles from China that no one's buying in order to protect an EV industry in Ontario that doesn't exist. And in return, we are seeing punishment on pork and canola in our Western provinces, which are products people do want. So I think the Chinese have been very targeted and direct in how they're trying to split our country up. And I think we need to revisit that. We obviously are going to have to find new markets for our products, but let's at least engage in proportionate responses rather than having a knee-jerk reaction that is only going to hurt our industries further. And that has been conveyed by myself as well as other premiers directly to the Prime Minister.
The Bloc leader, who will hold some power and influence over Carney's minority cabinet, has just said that there is no future for oil and gas in Quebec or anywhere for that matter. Carney has also said he would allow a Quebec veto over pipelines. So how does Alberta then respond if no pipelines east is the deal that helps Carney keep his government from falling?
Well, I would hope that's not the case. The Canadian people did not vote for fringe voices like the Bloc Québécois or fringe voices like the Green Party or fringe voices like the NDP to control the agenda for the next while here. What Albertans and Canadians voted for was for Canada to become an economic superpower. And that means also an energy superpower. And that is what I would fully expect Mark Carney to do. I hope that he's able to continue forward with an agenda that perhaps even the Conservative opposition would support him in. That's what I think the message of the election is. And I would surely hope that he's not listening to fringe voices from a party that is solely committed to breaking this country up.